Okay, so let's go through some of the questions on M13. I picked ones with the square roots. So again, I always end up drawing out my problem. And one cool thing about this problem is that it's a 45-degree triangle. 45, 90, the third side has to be 45. So we know it's a 45, 45, 90. And we said if it's a 45, 45, 90, the sides are legs, which we call isosceles, are always going to be the same. So bam, I already know one of the sides. To get to the hypotenuse, this is always a square root of 2 difference. So 42 square root times square root of 2 is, you can write 84, square root of 84. They asked you in the problem on the left to simplify it. So you could write 84, smallest thing I can divide 84 by is 2, 42, 2, 21, 3, and 7. Only one pair, so we're left with 2 square root of 21. You could also have realized that here, if you wanted to save some time, isn't 42 2 times 21? And now you have a pair of 2's on the outside, and 21 is stuck on the inside. And this is how we would write our answer. On my left, FH is 2 square root 21. GH is square root of 42. And angle H, we said was 45. Now, the better you are at this, the faster you'll be able to do these. And the faster you'll be able to see the relationships. And that's the important part. On the SATs, in calculus, you're expected to know these automatically. Okay, next problem. Okay. So I'm not going to do the work on the right. I can just fill this out since I know it's a 45-degree triangle. So if, I'll show you guys this. If the leg is 3, the other leg must be 3. So RQ, that must be 3. The next part, PQ, since we know the leg, the hypotenuse is always related by square root of 3. So I can just write 3 square root of 2. And we know the angle is going to be 45. 45 again. So to get from the leg to the hypotenuse, so again, if I know one angle is 45, the other angle has to be 45 in this right triangle. Square root of 26. The other leg has to be square root of 26. To get to the hypotenuse, just remember the rule. You have to practice this rule. It's related by square root of 2. You write this 3, 4 times, you won't forget. Don't write this at all, you never remember. Square root of 52. 52 divided by 2 is 26. 2 is 13. You have 2 square root of 13. Okay, so we know everything we need to know. IJ is, we wrote there, is 2 square root of 13. IK is square root of 26. And J is 45. Okay, this is a, I see 30 degrees and 90 degrees. So 180 minus 90 minus 30 leaves me 60 degrees. This is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Square root of 3. Now here is our tricky problem. We always said start on the short side. So this is my short side right here. And if I go to the hypotenuse, that's always times 2. If I go to my long side, that's always times square root of 3. But they didn't give me my short side. They gave me my long side. So we say the opposite of going forward is to go backwards. So we would divide by square root of 3 Turns out that's just a 1. How do we get to the hypotenuse from the short side? Times 2. Now you can only get better at this and see relationships with the more problems you do. You'll get faster, you'll see relationships. But if you don't practice, of course, it's not going to work. Not going to figure it out. So we said it was 2. We said this was 1. And that was going to be 60. This was our standard 30, 60, 90 triangle. Ugh, that looks fugly. So for this problem, they didn't tell me that this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. They didn't give me any angles. But we're going to use some deduction here. 10 square root of 6 and 10 square root of 2. If this was a 30, 60, 90 triangle, these are related by square root of 3. And let's try it. 10, remember this is my short side, short to long. 10 square root of 2 times square root of 3 is 10 square root of 6. That's exactly what we have there. So this means this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle, where 60 degrees is on the short side and 30 degrees is on the long side. Hypotenuse is double, so we double 10 square root of 2 becomes 20 square root of 2. Square root of 2. We're given angle H is 60 degrees and angle F is 30 degrees. I'm just copying what I have on the right. Okay, let's see. This is a right angle, but I don't think this is a special triangle. But let's see, maybe. So let's say this is this can't be 45, 45, right? So let's say if this is a 30, 60, 90. Let's see if we can get to square root of 3. How to get from my long side back to the short side? Is that times 2 or is that a square root of 3? So remember, from the short side to the hypotenuse, that's times 2. And the long side is square root of 3. So to go backwards, we're going to divide by square root of 3. 9 over square root of 3. We can multiply this around. Square root of 3 on top and bottom. 9 square root of 3 over 3 reduces to 3 square root of 3. Okay, 3 square root of 3. If I multiply this by 2, we end up with 6. Yep, this turns out to be a 30, 60, 90 triangle. We've uncovered it. Isabella, question? Okay, for this next problem, this is not a special triangle for us. So I'm going to write it out. And we are looking for, okay, when I do these problems, I like labeling the sides. 7 is my hypotenuse. TS on top is my opposite. And adjacent is on my left. Okay, label them, it'll make it a lot easier. Then we said, let's go find the angles. If I know one is 35, the whole thing is 180. I already used 90, so we have 90 left. So this is going to be 55. Okay, so we found all 3 angles. Now we're looking for all 3 sides. So for this problem, to find TS, the opposite. So remember I teach it, pick a side we know and a side we don't know. So it's opposite and a hypotenuse. Sine, cosine, tangent. Which one is opposite hypotenuse? Sine. So we said a sine of the angle 35. What is the opposite of 35? That's unknown, we'll call it x. And what's the hypotenuse? That's 7. In this problem, we just have to multiply 7 to both sides. And that's just calculator work. Yep. I'm gonna come back and deal with that later. I'll call this second side y, adjacent y. So I pick a side we don't know, and a side that I do know. That's adjacent hypotenuse, that's cosine 35. It's adjacent y over hypotenuse 7. There's so many ways of checking, double checking, like when you're talking it out. My cosine is adjacent of hypotenuse. That's y over 7. Multiply 7 both sides. 7 cosine of 35 equals to y. And now we write the calculator. Oops. So we're going to just type it as we see it in degrees. That's a degree. 7 times 35 cosine, sine, equals 4.0 rounding to nearest tenth. And then we'll do the next one. 7 times 35 cosine equals 5.73, rounding to 5.7. So let's cross our fingers. We said the angle is going to be 55. The two legs, TS, which is the top, that's going to be 4.0. And RT will be 5.7. Let's cross our fingers. Oh, that's so scary. Every problem is scary. Hopefully I'm not giving you guys anxiety. Okay, looking at 61 is my opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. We can find out what the missing angle here. That's going to be 29, because 29 plus 61 is 90. So pick a side you don't know and a side that you do know. That's my opposite and hypotenuse. Call this little q if you want. Call this side little r. So opposite hypotenuse is sine. So once you get the pattern of solving these, like, it's not hard anymore at all. It's actually quite simple. And for the SAT, you need every second you can. You can save a second. That's going to be a second you can use for another problem. Almost like money. I think of it the same way as money. So that's going to be our answer for Q. Let's solve for our other missing R. R is adjacent. I know the hypotenuse. Adjacent hypotenuse is cosine. And this will be 8 cosine 61 because I'm multiplying 8 to both sides. Okay, anyone have any questions about the last two problems that we just did?
I just have a question about rounding. So when I was rounding on IXL, it rounded to 7, and I just put 7. And do you have to put 7.0? Like,
I don't think you do. I just do it just
they said
because.
I got it wrong just because I didn't put 7.0.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
But the other problems it was fine, so I don't know why.
well, I don't know. Yeah, it says write your answer as an integer or a decimal rounded to nearest tenth. I don't know why.
IXL is dumb.
And that's the hard part, like to understand if they're not giving you some like consistent answer. Yeah, maybe it's if you do round. Let's say if you round.
No, it's because I always round, and like when it's just like when it just like the number 0.0, I just put like the number.
Yeah, normally you can just put the number. But I don't know why they gave it to you wrong. Sorry about that. Let's see if there's any harder ones. Nope, that's the same thing. Okay, so that's it for numbers. If you want to watch another video, that's also posted, and you guys can watch them both if you're setting up.